steaks are prime, choice, select. You'll find select steaks that cut greater meat, mostly in supermarket. Uh, you'll find uh, choice in supermarkets also, but it's the higher grade. Like I know a couple stores like Ingles and Jules might have an upper, the more expensive cut of meat. The reason why they grade it that way is the quality and how much fat is in that steak. Prime consists of 2% marbling. When you see the little white in between the red meat, that's marbling. And the more marbling it has, the more flavor it has. You
But the president, being the president, isn't focused on that experience, but as a result, he's floating dangerous ideas about how
beef that you could get. Filet mignon, that's why it's so expensive.
From domestic terrorists.
Right here where the ribs are, that filet is under the rib cage, so it's protected and it's not being used. It's not a muscle, so that's why it's so tender. Not getting any work. When you see a T-bone steak or porterhouse has a New York strip on one side and it has a filet mignon on the other side. So that's the filet. That little piece right there is the filet. This big piece is the New York on a porterhouse or a T-bone. The reason why they call it a T-bone, because the T-bone has very little filet on it. It has a little piece of meat, but on the porterhouse it's pronounced. So it's a big piece of steak, a filet mignon, and a New York strip. A ribeye, on the other hand, is closer to the back of the cow. Everything closer to the head would be a little more. But as you go back to the back, it gets tougher, but it also gets more flavorful. You'll get your steak, London broil, your stewed meat, all that tough grated meat is closer to the back part of the cow, okay? Ribeye is probably the most flavorful piece of cut of steak that you could buy. If you're looking for flavor. New York strip is going to be a lean cut of meat and it has less fat. It just have like a 2-inch fat cap around the outside. So if you want a strong, lean cut of meat, that'll be a New York strip. But if you want a lot of flavor, that'll be a ribeye steak. A filet if you want tenderness, okay? And those are different. Anybody have any questions about meat yet? Okay. You would rarely find a prime filet because the definition of prime is that it has to have a certain amount of marbling and fat in it, and it's rare to find a filet with fat in it, okay? So it's rare to find a prime filet, but you can find a prime New York, ribeye, porterhouse, and stuff like that. Also, the way they cure meat after they cut it is called dry age or wet age. Dry age is when you see, if you ever see steaks like just sitting on shelves and it's like the air is this dark color, that's dry age. What they're doing is letting it sit up in a humidity controlled refrigerator for a certain amount of days, usually like 32 days. So it takes a long time for it to cure it, but a wet age is usually you'll see packed in one of those vacuum packs. That's wet age steaks, okay? What we have here is also wet age. What I have here is ribeyes, and I have a couple of fillets that I decided to do. This is a filet mignon. In there, but that's flavor. When it comes, you won't find that much marble at cost. Those a filet mignon will cost you like about the rest of it. A ribeye, which has some marble in the fat all through it, that's flavor. Okay, here's the better. Okay, I'm gonna see. I would
Chef.
never marinate. Yes. Any questions?
Okay, okay. This is just in the grocery store, and you see them little kind of cheap steaks, like chuck steaks. What are that? What are those?
Those would be flanked, and usually they're flank steaks, and they're from the lower part of the cow. So they're tougher meat, especially chopstick and stuff like that. You notice that they're like beat them, and they put little holes in them. That's to make them tender. They tenderize them. Okay, they use a Jacquard and tenderize it, but usually that's a flank or a London broil cut. Those tougher cuts of steak is good to marinate. Okay, you want to take a prime piece of steak and marinate it because the flavor of them stands alone. You don't have to marinate them. Okay, but if you have a London broil, flank steak, skirt steak, stuff like that, with a lot of gristle and stuff in it, you want to marinate it and break down some of that toughness. Okay, these ribeyes, I use kosher salt, pepper, and it's up to you how you want to season your steak. But I think salt and pepper, maybe a little garlic salt, some white pepper is all you'll need. It'll bring out a lot of flavor. Okay, so I'm using kosher salt. And I'm using black pepper. Now, I have 2 fillets and I wrap them with bacon. Remember I told you fillets have very little fat? So what I'm doing, I'm adding some flavor to this by wrapping it in bacon, okay? So I already seasoned the bottom part. And over here, you see I have a cast iron skillet. The best way to cook a steak is in a cast iron skillet, okay? I got to get it a hot skillet. Never put it in let your skillet get nice and hot. Because what you want to do with a steak is you want to sear it. You want to lock that flavor in it. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and drop my ribeyes in it. So I'm going to leave it there and I'm going to let it cook. And while that's cooking, I'm gonna go ahead and start getting the risotto ready, okay? So a risotto is a Italian rice, and it's a burrito rice. Okay, you'll find it in your grocery store. It's a whiter rice, and it's a little thicker. It's a little creamier. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna get all of my stuff that I want in this rice. I'm gonna get in the skillet, in a pot, a medium heavy bottom pot, not a light, you know what I mean? Not one of those thin pots. So make sure that pot that has some type of little heavy to it, okay? So I got butter in there. I'm gonna go ahead and put onions. I'm gonna let those onions saute and also have some bacon. And what I did is I took applewood bacon and I'm gonna cut them up into strips and then I'm gonna dice them. So this is nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the pot. And I'm gonna let it cook with the onions. So while the steak is cooking, because I like a nice crisp top on it, I don't know how you like your steak cooked. I usually like mine cooked about medium. So that's like 140 degrees, okay? When you cook your meat, beef is one of those things that it don't have to be cooked up unless it's a processed meat or ground beef or something like that. That should be cooked up to 165, like a hamburger. Unless you know the person that's doing the hamburger, I wouldn't just eat anybody's hamburger rare. Make sure you know the person, because that's how people get sick, okay? So we're working with getting these onions and bacon cooked off while that steak is cooking. So I'm gonna totally cook that bacon. I don't want it crispy, but I want it cooked thoroughly. Now, how do you like your steaks cooked? Anybody like rare steaks? Medium rare.
Medium well.
Medium well, okay.
Mhm.
Oh, well.
Well, okay. Anybody else? Any medium or medium rare people here? No? Okay.
Well done.
I never recommend well done, and for this simple reason. If you're gonna pay $50 for a steak, you might as well taste the flavor. So medium well is the far as I probably would go, because well done would dry it out. You know, I know you don't like to see red in your steak, but medium well would be sufficient. So I'm gonna let this continue to cook. I'm gonna come over here and check my steaks. I'm gonna go ahead and flip it. See how nice and caramelized it got on top? What I wanted to do is to lock in that flavor, okay? That skill to cooking it is definitely a cast iron
Chef, you
skillet.
use butter or oil for your steaks?
With the steak, with a ribeye, I use a hot skillet and I didn't need oil for it because it's not gonna stick and it's gonna produce
Okay.
its own grease.
Okay.
That's good to know.
Yep. Thank you.
Especially ribeye, but if you have a filet or a New York that don't have a lot of fat, I would use a little olive oil. Okay?
Okay. Thanks for that.
See how they look? The bacon and the onions, and the smell is great. That's one of the best smells in the world, onion and bacon together. Now I'm gonna measure out like a cup and a half of this rice. And I'm gonna go ahead and throw it in here. Because it's got, if you look at the bottom, that bacon is producing fat. So it's not a dry. So I want it to coat the rice. So I'm gonna stir it up. Now risotto, it takes work. This is not a rice that you can just walk away from. You gotta stay over it and keep stirring it and testing it. So it's one of those things that you gotta be really on top of risotto. I have some mushrooms. These are portobello mushrooms, the baby portobellos. I'm gonna add to it, okay? So I'm gonna stir that up in the mix. So I'm gonna let it cook some more. Let the rice get a little toasted and get that flavor all throughout it. Okay. Come over here and check my steaks again. My steaks are about medium rare right now. Now, if you want your steaks cooked more, you can always throw them in the oven to get them well done, okay? If you're doing it on the grill outside, you want to just get grill marks on it and finish off in the oven because you don't want to char your steak. A lot of people like it well done, but they don't like it charred. So you got to make sure you take it off the fire and find another way of cooking, like in an oven, just to get it up to temps. Now, risotto is a good dish to go with any proteins like chicken, fish, steaks, any protein you can eat it with, okay? The thing about risotto, you can change it up. You could put different flavors in it. Like I could put tomatoes and basil in there and make it, and a different type of cheese. I could put butternut squash in there. I could put sweet potato in there, So you could do whatever you want with the risotto. See how that's starting to look all wet, nice, and coated, and the mushrooms are starting to cook from the heat? But risotto, it's gonna take like 10, 15 minutes of you standing over stirring it. You can't just leave it, okay? Because it'll burn and clump up on you real quick. Stay over there, Travis. Okay, what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna take these steaks out. And I'm just set them to the side for a second. Then I'm gonna turn the heat up on it. And then I'm gonna get my filet mignons in here. Okay, I'm getting back to my risotto so it won't scorch. Now, what I'm gonna start doing now with the risotto, while my fillets are cooking, I got some chicken stock. Now, you could buy store-bought chicken stock, or you can make your own with leftover, like the carcass of your chicken with celery and onions and carrots and water and let it cook down. You could do it that way, or you could just buy chicken stock. So I'm gonna start adding, and make sure it's hot when you add it to the skillet. So don't add ice cold chicken stock here, and just stir it until all that water is like, all that stock evaporated in there. And you just keep doing that. And what you're doing is bringing the cream, the consistency out of there. And risotto is not a mushy rice. It should be al dente, which is like you should be able to, when you bite it, you should be able to feel it, but it should not be hard. It should not have a hard center. See how it sucked up all of the liquid? So I'm gonna go ahead and add some more. So I'm gonna continue to stir it. Starting to cream up on me. I'm gonna add some more stock. You see how it's starting to come together and the rice is starting to cook? I mean, it takes a little work, but it's definitely worth it when it comes to taste. It's just like when you're making custard for your banana pudding. You gotta stand over and stir it and make sure it's nice and not lumpy. Same thing with risotto. You gotta make sure you baby it a little. I'm just gonna come over here and flip my steak. This is so I'm gonna let it cook until most of the liquids evaporate out of it. Then I'm gonna add more. This is like stone ground grits. When you get those, you have to stir it, and they're better quality of stuff, but it takes a lot of work. Since we got bacon on, I'm gonna make sure I cook that bacon on the side, cook it into it. Come back and play with my steak a little. Now, ribeye is one of those steaks. Ribeye is the same thing as prime rib. Now, prime rib is made from the same cut of meat, and what it is how you cook it. Prime rib is cooked slow at a low temperature, and that's what makes it tender. So you'll cook a prime rib, say like at 325 for like 45 minutes to an hour, slow cooking, and that's a prime rib. So a prime rib is a ribeye, it's just the technique of how you cook it. That's what makes it a prime rib. Most of the liquid that's cooked out, so I'm gonna add a little more. Now, you could, like I was saying at first, you could add so much stuff. Like you could add asparagus tips, you could add broccoli and cauliflower to this. You could add basil, you could add tomatoes. You could add whatever you desire to your risotto. Okay. Mostly, see how it's getting creamy now? Add some more chicken stock. You notice I haven't walked away from the stove at all. You walk away from the stove on risotto, you'll regret it. So I'm gonna let that liquid cook out. Now I'm gonna flip these steaks. See how it's nice and caramelized on top? That skillet is hot. It's gotta be a hot skillet. So I'm going to take these off and let them rest. But while I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead and add some shallots. And what I'm making is a pan sauce for the steaks. So that's a shallots is an onion. It's the same thing as onion. And I'm gonna add some red wine. I'm gonna let the alcohol cook out of that red wine. Let it evaporate. Then I'm gonna go ahead and add some beef stock. And I'm gonna let that simmer down. And that's making a basic pan gravy. You could do that with chicken after you fry chicken, whatever. So I'm gonna turn the heat down on it and let it simmer. I'm gonna go ahead and add some more stock. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna add my fillets back into that gravy. And I'm gonna let it sit there and simmer. And I'm gonna take it off the heat for a minute. And work on my risotto. If you can look at it now, look how creamy it's gotten.
Your video is frozen, Chef.
Is it still frozen?
Yes.
How about now, Michelle?
You're off. We can't see you at all now. Okay. All right, now we got you.
Okay. But if you look now, you can see how creamy this rice is getting. I'm gonna add the remainder of my chicken broth.
It's stuck again.
Is it okay now, Michelle?
Yes, we're good.
Okay. Now we're wrapping this up. I'm gonna let the remainder of some of these liquids cook down. While that's doing that, I'm not stepping away too far. I'm gonna take me some fresh parsley, about a handful. Go ahead and dice it up. Go ahead and stir real quick. Most of the liquid, the stock is already stirred in. I'm gonna check it. Make sure that it's not, it's almost there. I'm gonna turn the heat completely off on it. Now this is the consistency I want. Now I'm gonna add Parmesan cheese to it. You can add any type of cheese you like, Romano. You can add any kind of cheese, really. I wouldn't use mozzarella because it might be a little too thick. So I'm gonna stir that cheese in there. Now I'm gonna take that parsley I just chopped. And I'm gonna get that in there. Look how nice that looks. And that's how you want your risotto. It should not be dry. It should not be stiff. It should be nice and creamy. And that's it for the risotto. Now, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna finish this sauce off. I'm gonna add some parsley to it. I'm gonna add some black pepper to it. turn the fire back on. Shut up. I'm gonna add a touch of heavy cream. Just a spot of it. I'm gonna let it come to like a simmer. Pull this off the heat. Now, with the steak, I added some red wine. Usually, I use like not a sweet wine. I'll use something like a Merlot, and this one I used today was a Sauvignon Blanc. It's actually a cab. So my sauce is starting to simmer up. It's getting all that the pieces of steak that was cooked, the drippings and all that stuff. So I'm using that to make a sauce. Notice I didn't put any flour in it because I'm using heavy cream to thicken it with. So what I did, I added the wine first because the wine is going to boil and it's going to bring up all the flavor from the bottom. So it's going to constitute all that flavor. Then I add the beef base or beef stock, and then I add the cream after I add the onions. Still working with this, making sure that's okay. I'm gonna check it for, see if it needs salt or pepper or anything like that. I don't think it needs any salt or pepper. So. What I did earlier, I cooked off some asparagus to go with our dinner. Basically, it's just olive oil, salt and pepper. And what I'm gonna do, I've got a nice truffle oil. It's a black truffle oil. It's kind of expensive, but it gives a great flavor. So I'm gonna drizzle that on my asparagus. A little of it go a long way. Very expensive stuff. This little bottle probably costs like $20. I see my sauce is simmering. And basically, that's all the cooking we need to do now. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna plate everything. And there you go. Steak dinners. Filet mignon, bacon wrapped filet mignon with grilled truffle oil asparagus, a mushroom bacon risotto, and a ribeye steak with the risotto and asparagus also. And there you go. How simple is that?
Chef,
I don't know how simple it is, Chef, but it looked good.
I wish I could fly to South Carolina right now. I'm telling you.
Michelle, I need a piece of that ribeye steak. That ribeye steak big and look really good.
I'm telling you. So, Chef, you'll have to send us the recipe.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
I'll email them to you tonight. Okay.
Yes,
Class, what do you all think? Let's get your feedback.
the rice looked like a dish by itself with all the food to put in it.
Yes.
It's a whole
Actually,
meal.
Yeah, actually you can. I mean, the risotto is, I mean, it takes a lot of work, as you can see. You can't leave it. You have to stand in front of it and stir it. But you can put you could cook up bake some sweet potatoes and put little chunks of sweet potato. You could do so much with risotto. So here's another option instead of just throwing rice and rice pilaf on everything. Italian rice, okay?
Oh, okay.
Any other questions?
Can you buy that rice at any store?
Oh, yeah, you can actually. You can even buy it at Walmart, but mostly Ingles Jewels, I know, has it.
Okay.
In the higher end store, like what's that? Whole Foods definitely has it. But yeah, you'll see it right in the area with the rice. Okay.
Okay.
When you were cooking, it seemed like I could smell it as you put it on.
Thank you. Yep. Sorry, I
How
don't
long
have
do
a
you have to
dessert.
cook it for it to be well done?
Well done. Well, what you want to do, because it depends on your oven, if it's gas or electric, but you want to get your thermometer and you want to stick it in the center, and then when it's 165, it's well done. Okay.
165. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chef, can I ask about seasoning? I know you use the kosher salt and everything, but many times they sell like seasoning already mixed, like, for pork chops, for this, for that. Do you recommend that, or getting everything separate?
Well, I do like certain brands, like Montreal has that steak seasoning for chicken and steak. That is really good, but you just got to watch how much salt they put in there. Sometimes, it's so salty.
Okay.
But Weber has a great steak seasoning. That Weber Grill, that company,
Yeah.
they season.
Yeah, I have some of Weber
really
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But you could take it and you can make your own seasoning. There's salt, pepper, garlic, onion powder, and mix that all up. You can get some Lawry's in there. That'll soul it up a little bit. Any other questions?
Nah.
Like I say with prime rib, if you want a tender cut of meat, you could always take a tough cut of meat and make it tender by how you cook it. It's low heat and take your time cooking it. Prime rib, it could take 2 hours to cook a nice piece of prime rib at 325. Once you season it, because what's happening in prime rib, because it had that ribeye has that fat around it, it's melting and it's soaking into the meat as it cooks. That's what makes it so tender. Okay.
Is it better to cook a steak on top of the stove or in the oven?
I think on top of the stove, because I like it to get that nice sear on the top. You could do it in the oven if you put it on your broil function in your oven. So you're not baking a steak. You should be broiling the steak.
Yeah.
And that's the heat from the heat coming from top down to the steak. You don't want to ever bake it because that's dry. You're taking all the flavor out of the steaks. All that juice be out. Bacon, it just caused the steak to just bleed out. You want it to lock in real quickly and sear it in. And that's why you should always cook on top of broil. Okay.
Okay.
Steakhouses use a broiler. They have a broiler that's 1,800 degrees that they cook their steaks on. Places like Ruth Chris and Morton's and all the places, they have a special broiler for their steaks. If you want it well done and not dry, you could put it in the oven after you sear it, okay? But you want to lock that flavor in first.
Do you have a
Mhm.
favorite steak sauce that you like?
You know, I've been a chef at a couple of restaurants throughout the country, and the steak sauces that I usually like is ones that we make. People that usually well done and stuff like that, they'll get like A1. I like Heinz 57. That's really good. What else? Most of the time, I don't even put sauce on my steaks unless I make a pan gravy. But I got Travis here. He's going to try one. And I have my buddy here, Walter. I'm going to serve him one. He's doing homework. Walter is getting ready to go to culinary school in Denver. So,
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Walter, hopefully we can feature you on one of these prepare and taste, and you'll be able to show us what you can do.
that's Walter there.
I would love that. I'm actually about to make a pomade in my class soon.
So I'm letting Walter's about to try the ribeye, and Travis is about to try the sirloin. I mean the filet. He's not gonna like it. He's gonna have to cook it more because he likes his food well done also. Yeah. I'll cook it up more. But try the risotto. It's mushrooms and bacon. What do you think of the risotto?
The steak. It's like it goes far from chewy. It goes to like it's like in between tender and chewy, and it's like it's almost melting in my mouth. It really is. And it's the flavor is I just found out about the flavor wheel, by the way, so I'm still trying to remember all the words to use, but that mushroom sauce, I definitely taste it. It tastes really good.
Good.
You put that on the
Well,
steak, right?
you're speaking to regular people, so you can use regular terms.
Right.
So these guys are eating it. These are my guinea pigs most of the time, especially Travis. And Bentley's looking like, where's his? This is Bentley. That's my pup.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Well,
Jeff, thank you for 2 amazing weeks. We have really enjoyed it and looking forward to making it. And so please send us the recipe and thank you.
thank
you so
all.
much.
I really enjoyed doing this, and I hope you all have a great evening.
Yes,
Okay,
it
we'll
looks
see
good.
You
in
too.
January.
Thank you, Chef.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It looks good.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Enjoy, you all. Have a great week, and we will see you next week. Our chef will be Lil Keys from Lenore's Kitchen, and Chef Keys will be with us for the next 2 weeks. Have a good night.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.